Remember that docu that was with Al Gore and the Inconvenient Truth or something?
Yeah, I watched that in the movie theater, believe it or not.
I didn't. um, there's going to be a new one coming out that's going to be called the Convenient Lie,
Yeah.
and it's going to be all about supply chain. And every time something goes wrong on earning misses, it's going to be supply chain.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, what are we looking
Yeah.
at here?
So this is Moderna's chart, and they took a big hit today as a result of an earnings miss. And primary, one of the big causes or one of the big things that they point at is that supply chain is causing them to not have inventory, which then is delaying deliveries till next year. But this follows the trend. We've seen Apple miss in the last quarter. We saw Amazon miss. They're all pointing to supply chain. So does that? I guess the conspiracy theorist or the the theorist on that side for me is like maybe it's nice to have the supply chain issue because these companies then have like you said a convenient excuse to say that's why we missed. And in this macro market where everything seems to be a little bit more difficult, hiring people is difficult, getting customers is difficult, everything's difficult. It's a nice thing to be able to point to. It's a nice thing in your back pocket.
I mean, I think you and I talked about this on another episode where, if you're the CMO of a company right now and like sales are booming, not right now, let's just say 6 months ago, 9 months ago, and your online sales are booming, everyone in like the e-commerce department, marketing department, it's like, yeah, we did it. And they might have came. But I also think that $6 trillion that were pumped into the system had something to do with it. And, we talk about it repeatedly, but people weren't paying their mortgages, school loans, rent, and all that money was going into retail, right? And then stimulus, unemployment, that artificially boosted sales. And it's like there's probably a lot of people like sitting around like making job changes, like, yeah, I increased revenue 32% over here, and they went to that next job
Yep.
because of that metric they showed them, and everything's about to drop. So
Yeah.
like we weren't living in it wasn't really reality. So
I,
in
I
that same
completely agree.
yeah, but in that same sense, I think a lot of CEOs were looking good too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now think about it. Would you jump on an earnings call and say, as a president, CEO, whatever, CFO, would you jump on an earnings call right now and say, well, party's over. Everyone's back to paying their rent and mortgages, and in January they got to pay their school loans, and that $6 trillion we pumped into the system and a huge unemployment, that's all drying up, and savings accounts are going back to where they were pre-COVID. So, we're expecting retail sales to drop by 15%.
Hmm. No way.
Do you? No way. Who the hell? No, you'll get fired on the spot. Though your shareholders would be out there with pitchforks outside your door. So no one in their right mind is going to jump on an earnings call and make that prediction. Maybe they are, but you know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well,
they're
I mean, at least recently, you can see where the better the story you can tell, the better your stock price does typically, right? You think of the Amazons and stuff who can generate zero in terms of profits or shareholders' equity and still soar. So there is like the storytelling element. And so you're right. Would you dare go in front of a group of analysts right now and say, expect things to be pretty poor for the next 4 quarters? They would murder. They would murder your stock.
yeah. It's I think it was in a Margin Call. Was that the HBO movie about the crash? I think it was Margin Call.
Hmm.
And they're at the end of it, and like the chairman of the board shows up or something. Dude's like 60, or they're talking about the music stopping, and the analyst is like, well, right, this is when they're starting to realize that their leverage on leverage on leverage is starting to put the company completely underwater. And he's like, well, the music's not stopping, it's just slowing right now. And I think they were trying to figure out when the music stops. And I think it was like probably about 24 hours later is when this everything just was just done. They're bankrupt. But it's the world's not going to come to an end. But in this case, is the music just slowing? Where I keep saying it. I wish I'd hear more people talk about it. This is where we're at today with the $6 trillion. So where would we be without it?
Right, right.
And when you think about how much money, we overconsumed, which caused a lot of these supply chain issues. It's only gotten worse with the staffing shortages. But we bought so much shit, like, because we had the extra money. So I'm expecting a lot more earnings misses. Unless they start kind of retailoring, what those expectations are.
Right,
But
right.
do we
Everything
think
has
that
to
the-
adjust.
Everything's got to adjust to a downward trend. And it doesn't mean like we're going out of business. It's just that we're out of this bubble where money supply was extraordinary. But right now, no one wants to say that. The most convenient thing to say is supply chain issues, because that gives you hope, King. As
Yeah.
if you're an analyst, if you're an investor, if you hear supply chain issues, you think turbulent times ahead. But once we're through this, we're going to get back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't see like a massive sell off. Now, if they came out and said, well, hey, it's that those extra trillions kind of helped a little bit, but we're expecting sales to kind of go back down to the same trajectory they were in like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
The stock market would go probably, who knows, 29,000 we dropped down to.
Maybe.
Yeah, no one wants. We'll talk about it after it happens, but I don't think anybody's going to jump on an earnings call and set that tone and be the one on the record saying it, because I think it would be career suicide. But
Yeah.
it's now the convenient excuse. When you think about it, like you mentioned it earlier, it's nice to kind of maybe keep demand right here, to kind of keep the demand pent up in a way that they say Ferrari doesn't make a lot of cars, but they've been seeing them making a lot of cars lately. But to not like oversaturate the market, and then prices creep up more, a little more margin on that. Maybe they want that to happen.
Yeah.
Again,
I you're right, because sorry, James, one of the things that I think you have a good thumb a thumb on is kind of through the employment boost company is you can get a sense of what the market feels like in terms of labor, right? And you can just see right now that there aren't that many layoffs happening. So despite all these supply chain issues and all this stuff, people aren't really losing their jobs like we were seeing, tail end of 19, for example, where there aren't these big, massive layoffs. So there's enough demand to keep everybody employed for the most part. And so, if you think of, I just think of like you said, the excuse of supply chain is this nice excuse to explain whatever the froth is at the top of the beer or the top of the coffee, and just keep everybody there for now. But you have to assume that at some point everything gets adjusted down, and I don't know when that is, and I think there's going to be a lot of pain when that happens. But I don't know.
yeah, it depends if they keep printing money. That's the only X factor. Is a lot of times it's hard to make. I gotta imagine if you're a short seller, it's hard to make massive short side bets when you don't know what the government's going to do. If the government didn't intervene last year, short sellers probably would have made a hell of a lot more money, but like you don't know. So, but you track the WARN notices for employment boost on the outplacement side, and you haven't been seeing as many WARN notices, have you?
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Not at all.
And you actually hear companies saying, "Man, I really want to let go of some of these people because they got problems with them, but they can't." So right. There's people that there's this pent up. They talk about the great resignation. They're not talking about the great firing that's going to be coming, because there's companies that just have not good employees. Some that they just have to hang on to, or they're going to go out of business. But as soon as they don't have to do that, those firings are going to start back up again.
Yeah,
and
right.
A lot of turmoil out in this market right now. But you think that what they really need to do overall is go. MTV used to have this commercial that was like, "This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs." You know what they need to put some charts up that show this is the economy with trillions of dollars of stimulus. This is your economy without the stimulus. So you can see where the hell we're going. We were in a bubble for 18 months. Money, everyone flush. Big unemployment, stimulus plans, stock market through the roof. A lot of money going around. We talked about luxury car sales booming, everything's sold out. Everything shit's just sold out. People flush with money. Now what? You know, it's they don't have all that disposable income to go to Amazon, to go to Target, to go to Apple. You're going to see more misses, and I think what you're just going to see is more and more of those estimates get chopped down a little bit, or you're going to keep seeing these blood baths. But
yeah,
okay, they're never going to get on the record and make that prediction. They're just going to let it happen. So what I'm saying is, it's like, keep an eye open. This is what we know. Unless the government prints more money, regression to the mean, as you said.
Yep.
What was it like in 2019? What has changed? It's that's the new world, man. And I'm thinking of Moderna. Like, the Moderna also get chopped down because it seems like everyone pushes Pfizer left and right.
Yeah, you're right. It could be something like that too.
Guy here, you probably hear Pfizer's name 7-1 in like real life, and you just don't hear people talking about Moderna a lot. So I don't know. Maybe the demand, you can call it supply chain. Maybe the demand for your vaccinations just not there. It seems
it's
like
interesting you say that, James. Because go on, sir. Sorry.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I think the Merck or some sort of oral treatment or something came out, and it's like being in the UK today too. So that actually might be pulling on this too. So it could very well just be a demand thing.
It was or what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the demand is part of supply chain. I mean, you can. I guess you could say that demand and supply chain, it's all part of the same bucket of business. But I just feel like I feel like the news and the way society talks, it seems like Pfizer is kind of the gold standard of the vaccination world. And you got that, or that one's getting pushed. You got these pills coming out, it sounds like. And if they do have a supply chain crunch, but King, like, is demand not an issue across the board on vaxes? Because it seems like at least this country is really struggling to get people to take it. So yeah. is it a supply chain issue if it's not like the government saying, hey, we need 25 million doses like now? So it's like, if you don't really have a high demand issue, then is the supply chain crunch really the issue? I mean, they're out there like begging and pleading with people to take the vaccination. It's everyone that really wanted to get it has gotten it. And now it's like, now you're trying to convince everybody else. So that tells me that demand has just dropped off. So I don't know.
Yeah. Great points.
That's my thoughts anyways. It's just, I think we probably talked about this back in August at some point. I don't know if we did it on an episode or maybe on a phone call, but I think we're pretty sure we talked about this was going to happen. That, a recurring theme on our show is once all this money dries up, you're going to see these companies start to go backwards, because how do you continue revenue growth if the money supply dries up? And I think we might just be starting to see that, with Apple and Amazon. Good example.
Yeah, that's true. And then you're going to see the next convenient excuse, which will be like something will trigger a downturn. Maybe it's real estate or something, and then everything will fall, and then they'll be out of having to use the supply chain as the excuse. They'll have another excuse for why they've adjusted down.
Yeah, there's always something else. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah. we're starting. You had that chart on the other episode that showed savings rate and total savings going back down to where
Yeah.
we were pre-COVID. Which, okay, and now we just saw in the episode you did on Daggerfin
Mhm.
YouTube about the hiring numbers. It's people are kind of got to get back to work now. They're running out of savings. They can't just sit at home and do whatever they're doing. So I think things are about to change in that sense.
Yeah.
But that I just think that heyday of big online and big retail sales are probably gone for the moment, unless there's another influx of money. The Zillow thing. I mean, you just saw it. When the bondholders just try to take over Evergrande in China or something.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I saw a headline. I can't verify that. I read so much shit every day. I can't account for it all. But you got that stuff going on. You're worrying about contagion over there. If anyone doesn't believe we're in a housing bubble, you're smoking boulders. This was not normal. That's a bubble. Maybe it stays there. It's still a bubble. I don't care.
Mhm.
So, like you said, if real estate pops, and that'll that's going to take everything else with it at that point.
Yeah.
They're already talking about pulling back on whatever they call it, the quantitative easing or whatever it is they do.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're pulling back on that. They know they're gonna, with inflation issues, they're gonna have to up rates, and they know as soon as they up rates, that whole mortgage industry and the whole housing market's gonna die.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that will likely trigger some kind of recession. But with an everything bubble, combined with overconsumption, oh man, it is a storm that I don't think anybody wants to deal with, to be honest. And they'll have their next 2 or 3 things already lined up to blame all their misses. Now the question is, like, where do you think the stock market's going to land? Again, like, when things don't make sense, it's like, should the Dow be at 36,000?
Right. Right.
A lot of people made a lot of money. I just something doesn't feel right. And
Yeah. Well, we've done that chart. We did that episode a long time ago now, where we looked at the froth there. So it wouldn't surprise me if it came right back down to that kind of normal, natural level.
now that's where it should be if the economy is normal.
Mhm.
Where would it be if the economy was actually in a downturn?
Yeah, you're right.
But let's just say that normal trajectory right now, if this $6 trillion and all this stuff wasn't pumped in the system, we might be at like 28, 29,000,
Mhm.
which is a pretty steep drop from where we're at. But that's just where it would be during good times. So what? And during a downturn goes down to 22?
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't know,
wild
man.
drop. Yeah, jeez.
That doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just a wild chatter, just thinking out loud. But there's so many things that don't make sense, and it never makes sense until it does. And then I think it's starting to make sense. And the easiest way to do that, easiest way to make it make sense is to say, remove the $6 trillion and where we're at, because that's reality.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think every day we inch closer to getting back to reality. I think we're a long ways away from that, but we're way closer to reality now than we were in, say, July. I'll have to find out. But for now, the convenient excuse is supply chain.
Yeah.
But you had no demand for that product. It's still supply chain issues.
We'd be able to tell if we had the product.
Yeah, you're gonna have like CFOs, these people doing earnings calls and like there's people that's kind of like with Tourette syndrome out there. Cargo ships, cargo, ports, supply chain, China, like just yelling out these like 10 buzzwords that the PR people gave them.
Yeah.
Like no matter what question gets asked, cargo ship, like 500,000 containers, China power outage, supply chain. Like sounded like that Hillary Clinton sound when she was doing her campaign. She had that like slow cadence where she was kind of yelling at the audience,
Yeah.
like they were all dumb. And that's what I think some of these people are going to sound like on their earnings calls. Like, we will not bring back high revenues until the supply chain is fixed. And
Oh, dear.
that's the next 12 months of earning calls. And
Mm.
then we'll be in a recession and it'll be the housing bust. And
Yep.
it's always going to be something, right?
Yep.
I don't know. That's all I got. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Go. I'm just go Google supply chain and see who else is blaming supply chain.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, man. I'm gonna catch you.